Hello everyone, my name is Annual and welcome to a build guide and review of Fenne. Now this is going to be a little bit different because Fenne is strictly a PvE character. She really does not have any use in PvP, and if she does have use in PvP, well, she's going to be one out of the 100 games you can actually use her in it. So we have a little bit of a different structure in order to basically highlight her PvE usage. So first off, let's talk a little bit about the history of Fenne. I'll do it a little bit I'll do it a little bit later, but just to be a little bit concise about it at the start, this character was released roughly about a year ago or a year and a half ago, and this unit quite literally destroyed every single PvE content that was in the game. There was nothing that she could not beat, and she pretty much was the best DPS you could ever pick up on your account as a new player, because if you have Fenne on your account, you pretty much curb stomp every single bit of content in the game. That being said, let's talk a little bit about Fenne's kit. Now, you can read off on the screen here, and I'll zoom in a little bit, and maybe if you're on mobile so you can see a little bit more clearly on each and every skill. But I know this skill by my heart, so I'll just talk a little bit about it. So any attack that you use on Fenne will consume a little bit of her HP and then convert that to injury. That will then continue to injure her HP up until the maximum injury amount, which is about 50% of your HP. The more injury you have on Fenne, the more attack and speed that you get. So this will eventually increase your total damage amount by a significant amount as long as you're getting injured, making her a very good unit into injury, which was what she was initially used into for PvP. But in terms of PvE content, for some odd reason, the multiplier that she gets when she gets injured is an absurd amount, leaving her to do monstrous amounts of damage, and which led her to be one of the best DPS in the game. Aside from that, she also has team health recovery on S1 and recovers her own health on S3. She also has a revive on her passive in case you get into a tricky situation where she dies, and now last but not least, she also gives herself a mini buff on the extra attack she gains as long as she has rage buff. Alright, we have the important things to note screen, which doesn't have a lot here, but once again, this character is PvE focused, so there isn't really a ton to talk about this character there isn't a ton to talk about for Fenne specifically, because she literally just curb stomps the entire game. So, important things to note, she is top 3 best PvE units in the game. She is standing proud next to Ross, Brig, Cameron, and probably Lorena. Like, there's characters that literally can curb stomp 85% of the things in the game, and Fenne is one of them. So once you get Fenne, you're pretty much set for your entire E7 career as long as you're climbing. And as I said, once again, she can clear 85% of the content in the game. I can talk about all the content on the next screen, so sit tight, but pretty much you can clear most, if not everything, so as long as you have her, you're pretty much set. And in terms of recommended molar investments, I would recommend 505. Her passive, if you remember from the last slide here, pretty much the only thing you gain is the HP on revive, which is pretty much doesn't really matter for PvE content. And as you can see, I also have 0 moles in it myself, so you really don't need to mole this character's passive. Otherwise, you do want to +5 both the S1 and the S3 because that's where your damage is. This will cost you roughly around 22 molar cores. Now, in terms of all the content this character can clear, she can clear all types of episode content or adventure as long as she has elemental advantage. Otherwise, you can use Symbol of Unity, which can help you hit at a disadvantage, and you should be fine. She can clear most, if not all, Abyss Force. Mr. Pokey last year had gotten Fenne on his new player account and pretty much just used her to clear all of Abyss. For Trial of the Constellation, she will strive into the fire boss called Magnar, so you'll use her as your primary DPS. Automaton Tower is not very hard content in the game, but she can do that as well, if not even solo it. In terms of expeditions, she can fight most of them, fire, dark, and ice, and she may struggle a little bit into light because you lose your passives into light, but that being said, she can still be used into expeditions. For your hunts, she can primarily be used into Wyvern, Banshee, and Cadies. Spirit Altar is an honorable mention, although it really doesn't matter, these bosses are easy. Same thing with Labyrinth, these are generally easy, but she can be used there as well. Alright, let's talk about your stats. So good stats are going to be your speed, health, defense, or any type of critical stats, for instance crit chance or your crit damage. Optional stats will be attack. Now, like I said earlier, when you get injured, you get attack, not HP. But although that's the case, it still scales pretty highly with Fenne. So having some attack on your build is not bad, but preferably you want to build some HP on the character rather than attack. Bad stats is effectiveness and effect resistance. These do nothing for you. In terms of artifacts, Victorious Flag from the guild shop will be your best bet in terms of total damage output and damage increase, as well as some damage reduction to keep Fenne alive, because of course as she gets injured she's going to be a little bit more vulnerable, so Victorious Flag can help keep her alive. On the other hand, Celestine is actually a really good tech pick because she does have an extra attack on her S1, meaning you get to attack twice on her basic attack, meaning you get 2 heals off of Celestine, making it a lot easier to keep your team alive. Veritas is a brand new artifact that just released that has a debuff cleanse on it, as well as CR pushing, which actually is pretty good for Fenne. But since you're using this character in PvE, it might not be as worth it to use, but it can help. If you use this character in PvP, her own artifact is okay. It helps you build other stats in other places, as well as it gives her injury to fight opponents. But once again, this character is mostly a PvE character, so you really don't care about her own artifact unless you want the free crit chance. And there's some other options here if you want to try it out, like Eternus, which will give you CR pushing if you're debuffed, as well as Potion Valve, which can knock off a debuff off of you so Fenne can no longer be debuffed. Otherwise, Idol's Chair is okay, and all the other artifacts are kind of pointless in my opinion, because once again, this character is a damage dealer in the Soul Eater class, so these artifacts aren't really that beneficial to her. In terms of your damage sets, you want to look for destruction set, preferably a speed set if you have better stats on it. In terms of your 2-piece sets, crit chance, pen, immunity, or HP can all work. Immunity is a little bit lesser so because this is PvE content, where immunity doesn't really matter if you're fighting some long matchups, but if you want to bring this character into PvP, immunity does not hurt. In terms of early game, you're looking for this stat line here. Speed, you want a bare minimum of around 150, I would say, but 160 I put here, and if you can increase it, so be it. And of course, crit chance you want to have as high as possible, and crit damage you want to be sitting around 300. Now my Fenne has like 270, but if you can get 300, that would be sick. 20,000 HP is going to be your bare minimum, and try to get around 1300 defense. In attack, any remaining stats that you get can go into attack. As for your late game build, we're going to be pumping up the numbers, increasing your speed threshold to around 180, 190 preferably. We're keeping the same damage stats in terms of crit damage, but if you can get higher stats, go for it. HP we're pumping up a little bit more. If you can get more, good. And once again, defense we're pumping it up a lot more too. I was able to get 1500 defense, but realistically you don't need it. But if you want to take the character into PvP, you're going to need a bit higher defense to stay alive. So here are some example builds you could take a look at. So this top right one is actually all of the free gear that you guys got received in the mail, which gave me actually 1500 defense, which is more than I recommended you, and 330 crit damage, which is more than I recommended you. But you can notice the speed is right on target around 160. And once again, this is all of the free gear. Now this is some of my better gear that I have on my account mixed in with some of their free gear, and we got a little bit into the 2200, and you notice that we have still roughly around 300 crit damage, but we lost a lot of defense. But our speed is a lot higher, which means we cycle a lot quicker, which is more beneficial for Fenne in terms of PvE content. Last but not least, here are all our combo units that you can use with Fenne. We have our big 3 in the top here because these units are perfect to use together. And you might be saying, hey, there's a big typo at the top here. And I know there's a typo there, but I decided not to fix it because I didn't feel like fixing it. We have a bunch of dual attackers here, which can help Fenne increase her injury amount very quickly, as well as increase damage output for your team. We also have some proportional damage boosters with Biblos and Yoha, which increases her max HP, which means more injury and more damage. And we have some pretty decent pairs that you can use with a character like Chrissy to prevent her from being debuffed, Para, which can help with cycling, Summer Break Charlotte, which can keep dual attacking, Tywin can prevent control, and whatever this guy's name is can help with the back row. Pretty much these are all just good characters to combo with the character, but once again, the big 3 exists, meaning for most PvE content you can just use these 4 together and you'll probably clear the content. That being said, some things that you could probably just remember is that if you have play with Brig has a barrier, and at the start of the match, if you put this barrier on top of Fenne, she won't injure herself, which is an issue, right? So just be wary at the start of the match. You might not want to press Brig's S2 because the barrier will protect her HP, which will protect her from injury. And some other things to note is for the dual attackers here, because Fenne, you want to build HP on her instead of attack because it's just more beneficial. If you might not have enough attack on your Fenne to pull a dual attack at the start of the match, you may have higher attack on Brig, your Tamarin, or for some reason your Ross, right? So you might pull them at first until your Fenne begins to get injured and have higher attack. So that's pretty much all you need to know about Fenne, and hopefully you can have some fun using her around content around the game. She is pretty fun and does explosive amounts of damage. I'll show a little bit of a clip here of me just absolutely nuking something, but the character just does crazy amounts of damage and just has crazy multipliers. She will not struggle in most places of the game, so it's pretty important to have this character geared. So hopefully you can enjoy, and hopefully this build guide was enough to help you build the character, and I will see you in the next one.